2 a.m. and she calls me 'cause I'm still awake. Can you help me unravel my latest mistake? Dropped a stitch about 17 rows behind me.
Hello and welcome to the Sittin' and Knittin' podcast.
And here's your host, Diana.
Thank you so much for joining me today. Today is Saturday, August 17th, 2013, and I'm broadcasting to you from sunny Southwest Ohio, where it's about mid-70s and the sun is just now setting there in the west. I wanted to say thank you for taking the time to sit and knit with me. I know there are lots of interesting podcasts out there to view and to listen to, and I appreciate you choosing to take some time with me. I'm not expecting a long podcast. It is the end of the day on Saturday evening. I did work this afternoon, so I am in my work uniform, but I wanted to show you something before it leaves. So we'll go ahead and jump into what's out of my hand. All my contact information will be found on the closing credits. I will have my lovely editor, Journey, put where you can find me on the various social medias and things like that. I won't take up time to do that now, but we'll do that at the end of the podcast from now on. So what's out of my hands? The first thing out of my hands is the Cameron sweater. The Cameron sweater is a sweater found in the Cabin Fever book called Kids Knitted Sweaters and More. And I've had this in my library for a few years, quite a few years now. And I was knitting the Cameron sweater. It does not have the name of the designer. The Cameron sweater called for worsted weight yarn. I was using Daisy Knits Nectar Base in her DK weight yarn, and it's 85% Polworth. It's 85% Polworth and 50 Merino. I think it's. Excuse me. I have to reach over here and get the card for you. I feel like I'm not really organized to podcast this evening, so excuse me. It is 85% Polworth and 15% silk. And it's in her Nectar Base and the Blue Sky colorway. And this yarn is from Daisy Knits, who is Daisy Knits Jennifer Watkins at daisyknits.etsy.com. And so what I did was I wanted, the baby was born in June, but I figured in 6 months when he'll be wearing the sweater, he'll be about 6 months old in December. So I wanted between a 6 and 9, 6 to 12 month size sweater. So what I did was I followed the sizes for a size 2 sweater as far as number of stitches to cast on and things like that. But as far as inches, I followed the size for a size 1. And the sweater came out to, I think, the size that I was looking for. At first, it was a little too big. We'll talk about that in a minute. So this is the finished sweater. I love how it turned out. I love, love, love this base of yarn. This is the same base that I did my calligraphy cardigan in. And it's just a beautiful base to work with. This is the back of it. This is the sleeves. Let's see. What can I tell you about it? I wrote myself just some quick notes on scrap paper today. The 3 needle bind off. I did the 3 needle bind off on the shoulders, the way the pattern called for. It leaves a little more of a seam than, I'm not sure if I like that or if I would have rather just did a Kitchener. Let's see if you can see it. It left the seam, and I'm not sure if I like that. So I know 3 needle bind off is used a lot on shoulder seams. I have done it before, but I don't remember if I've done it on shoulders, and I'm not sure if I really like it. But it is what it is. Another thing that I had to do was pick up the stitches to knit down the sleeves. And the stitches were not live, and I think it came out pretty well. That was something I have not done before. I have had stitches, sleeve stitches on hold and knit them, but I've never picked up stitches that were not live and knit down. So that was something different, and it gives it a little, I guess it's a set in type of look. So that was something new to me. Another thing new that I haven't done before was the slip slip knit past the 2 slip stitches over. I've done a slip slip knit but not passing 2 slip stitches over, so that was something new to me. This is a thing that I noticed on my calligraphy, and I also noticed on here. This has been washed and blocked, and you can see, I think the knitting looks very, very nice, but my decreases. I can see, I'm not sure what I'm doing to get the bumps for my decreases. I don't have that trouble with increasing, but I'm going to look at some YouTube videos and get some ideas on how to make my decreases look nicer. I noticed that, like I said, on the calligraphy cardigan, and I've noticed it on this too. So that's something that I want to improve on. Me being me, I don't know why I had in my mind that this was superwash yarn. I don't know if I thought Jennifer told me that or if I read it somewhere, but I don't think it's superwash. So I did wash and dry it because I would usually probably wash it and lay it to block it, but I wanted to treat it like I thought the mom would treat it. So I washed it and dried it, and I think it did felt some. It didn't felt a lot. It seemed a little big. Now it seems the perfect size. You can still see my stitches in great detail. So that's, but I do feel like it did felt up some. So I will tell the mom that I think she should maybe wash it delicately and lay it flat to dry. So I love it. I did not do the stripes because I just did not want to mess with the beautiful hand-dyed yarn, and I think it came out fine. I think it came out beautiful. I'm happy with it. I used about 383 yards, and I think that is all I had to say about that. And then I made a matching hat, and this hat that I did is a free pattern on Ravelry, and it's called the Fancy Ribbed Hat, or the Fancy Ribby Hat, and I will link to that in the show notes. And here it is. It did felt too a little bit, and I already thought it was small before I washed it. But that's the back. This is the back of it, and this is the front of it. It was made to have ear flaps, like it has, and then it was made to have ties, a pom-pom on the top, and ties with pom-poms on them. My husband and I both agreed that ties on baby hats kind of make us nervous. I just didn't want strings. I didn't want strings on the hat. I had thought about maybe making a little chin strap to put on it, but I posted a picture on Instagram and asked, and everybody thought that it looked fine without the chin strap. So this is the Fancy Ribbed Hat. It's just a 3x3 rib. I first did the ear flaps, and then I picked up the stitches. I really like the way they did the decreases. The way that she described to do the decreases, we still stayed within pattern the whole time. Like when you decreasing, because it's knit 3, purl 2, but when you did decreases, you were still able to do like a knit 2, purl 2 and then do more decreases. Every time you did the decreases, you were staying in pattern instead of just knitting all around. And I really, really like that. After, when I was getting my show notes ready, I noticed that there was an update for this pattern they said they had new sizes and clearer instructions. I already liked the instructions, but I would have been interested. I think it was for this size that I made was size 1 to 3T, and I kind of modified it a little bit. I did just a couple less rows on the ear flaps, and I did maybe in half an inch less on the length of the hat than it called for, just because I didn't want it a size 1, but like I said, maybe 6 to 9 months. So I would like to see the new sizes, but this may be something I do again. And so there's the hat, and I will be taking this to Mom tomorrow. I have to make a little tag for it, but I will be taking this to Mom tomorrow to give to her coworker. I've never met her, and I will ask if the coworker can give me a picture with the baby in the outfit when she puts it on him. She has seen different things that I have knit for my mom, and she's always been very complimentary about it and just gushes over it, and I think she's totally knit worthy, even though I've never met her, just from what my mother said. So that's that. Moving on, that is all that's out of my hands, and so we can talk about what's in my hands. What's in my hands is the Hermione's Everyday Sock. Last time I talked to you, I had finished sock number 1, and I can show you that real quick. One thing I forgot to tell you about sock number 1, I don't think I mentioned it, was that I decreased down to 10 stitches for the Kitchener, and it's just too skinny for me. I don't like the toe very pointy, so I think I may, on my next set of socks, maybe decrease to 15 or 14 or 16 or something like that. I just really don't like how skinny that is. So I didn't get a chance. I don't remember mentioning that to you, but I wanted to mention that to you. So here is the first sock, and it really feels comfortable. I seem to knit it's pretty tight gauge. I have not counted my stitches per inch, but it's pretty bulletproof. I've had it on some while I've been knitting on my second sock. And here is the second sock. There's not a lot of progress on it. I'll show it to you this way. I think the last time I talked to you, I was here where my stitch marker is. And so this is all that I've had knitted. And that's because I've been working on the sweater and something else. The sweater and hat and something else. So this is the Hermione's Everyday Sock by Erica Luder, and it's a free pattern that you can download from Ravelry. And I'm knitting it out of Lorna's Laces Shepherd Multi. And I forget the colorway name, but it is on my Ravelry page. I usually update my Ravelry page pretty regularly, so if there is anything that I forget to add in the show notes that you have questions for, I try to keep detailed notes on my Ravelry page. But one thing I wanted to say is I have a few more inches and I'll be ready to start the gusset. And I thought to myself today while I was working that, see, this is how far I am. So not too much further. That I didn't take notes on my gusset on how many stitches I picked up. And so I hope I can get them to match. That was something. Another thing I wanted to mention, I did switch this to 2 circular needles. I don't know if it's going to stay this way. I had been knitting it on my 40-inch, I think it's either 40 or 32-inch Haya sharps, which I love, love, love for sock knitting. And I'll tell you in a minute why I switched. But most of this has been done on magic glue. So that is that. I'm sorry, I keep looking over there. The boys are running in and out the house, and the phone is ringing. And I'm sorry, I just don't have peaceful time that I usually have when I podcast. I haven't been able to really find time, so but I wanted to squeeze it in so I can show you the finished object. The next thing that is in my hands is my chocolate chip mint socks. This sock yarn, it was gifted to me by Lisa, and her name is LASA Knits on Ravelry. I'm sorry. And this is Inspiration Dye Works in it's her basic sock in the mint chocolate chip stripe. And I believe she is on Etsy, Inspiration Dye Works. You can find her on Etsy. I have been drooling over this yarn, and I don't want to be repetitive, but I did talk about this before. For a while, mint chocolate chip is my favorite ice cream. And ever since I'd seen Kim from Craft Stash, it's it is green. It's not really looking as minty green. Let's see if I can get it to look. It is a very good. It looks just like mint chocolate chip ice cream. The color's not coming out good on there. But Kim from Craft Stash was the first place that I saw these socks. So as a treat to myself, I cast them on my birthday. My plan was to cast them on at 12:01, but I was so tired that I didn't cast them on till early the next morning. And this is how far I've gotten so far. I am doing them toe up. I tried a different toe, and I wish it wasn't on the double point needle so I could show you. I tried a round toe, and I have the directions that I used on my Ravelry page. I like it okay when it's on, but it looks a little gathered. Basically what I did was I did a Turkish cast on, and I increased pretty rapidly. Like the first set of increases were increasing every stitch, and then I think I knitted a row plain, and then I think you were to knit one, increase one all the way around, then maybe knit 2 rows plain, and then knit 2, increase 2 all the way around until you had your right number of stitches, and then keep going. I wanted a more rounder toe than the pointy toe that I had been getting in the standard toe. And like I said, I think it looks good on, because I did have this on magic loop on my 40-inch Chalgu needles. But I was getting some laddering with those. I've tried those on and off, and I don't know, I get laddering with them. And so since my Hayas were in use, I switched to these DPNs, which are the square DPNs. Can't think of the name of the designer, but I want to switch them from the DPNs because I use this a lot. This stays in my purse, and I use it a lot for traveling. My husband and I went to the movies for my birthday, and so I knit on it in the movie, and I went out with my mom and I knit on it, and I just knit on it, and it's just not real convenient for me. I'm not Susan B. Anderson. I just can't easily take out a project on double point needles and throw it back in a bag and take it out. So even though I love working with these collage square needles, and I'm not getting any laddering, it's just a little fiddly. So I'm going to put it back because I would like to start walking and knitting. I mean, I've been doing some walking, but I would like to start knitting while I'm walking. And the double point needles I can see myself dropping and losing. So I think I'm going to keep going with this. At first I thought I really don't like how that toe looks gathered there at the top. I would still do those increases that way, but maybe do it a little bit different. And I thought about taking it out. Oh, but it's so beautiful, and I'm almost where I need to put in my heel. I'm going to start for my first afterthought heel, And let's see, I'm at the dark brown now, so I would have to do a light brown and then in between the light green, and then I'm ready. So I'm almost done with the foot. This right here is to show you, this is my toe. And what I did was, after I got the toe complete, I had heard this somewhere, I think on Instagram, or something. I put the toe part on my heel to measure how much yarn I would need for the heel. And so my heel fit for the afterthought heel. So the heel fit pretty good. So I know I'll need this many stripes for my afterthought heel. And I have this marker here because I wanted to mark it on my Ravelry page before I took the marker out, and I haven't had a chance to do that yet. But yes, I will be putting waist yarn in, and I will be continuing to knit up. I think the jury's still out, but I need to hurry up and make a decision whether I'm going to make this stockinette stitch all the way around, or if I'm going to do I've been thinking about a 3x1 rib for the leg. So, I'm still want to decide on that, and that is the only other thing I have actively working now that the baby sweater and hat is done. I have these 2 socks on the needles, 2 pair of socks, and also I have my Mr. Green Jeans sweater, which I haven't pulled out in a long time. And I want to go ahead and pull that out and get started on it. But I'm thinking that I want to finish the Hermione's Everyday Socks first, and then knock my whips down to just the sock and the sweater. So I think that's what I'm going to do, is work on finishing those socks, and that's that. As far as aspirations, what I'm aspiring to, I want to work on my Mr. Green jeans. I'm still searching for the perfect sock pattern for me. I'm really disappointed with the socks that I made out of the Hiawassee Creek Dye Works sock yarn. First of all, the sock yarn faded a whole lot, and I'll have to show that to you. Just a second. Journey, can you pass me those socks that are on the drying rack? And also, this is no fault of anybody but myself. I believe I did these socks toe up, and I did them on 2.25 millimeter needle, which is my favorite size to knit socks on. But I only did 56 stitches or so, and so they are kind of tight. I still wear them, but they really aren't very comfortable. So I don't know if you can tell. It was a really dark purple, um, and then a really dark brown, and it has faded a lot. I thought I was clever in, putting a little variety here, as in doing plain stockinette stitch for the purple, and then I think I did like a 2x2 rib for the brown, but it actually made it kind of slouchy, like the 80s slouch socks we used to wear, which is not what I was really going for. And with them being tight on the foot and then slouching on the leg, um, you know, I don't know. So I'm thinking that 64 stitches, because that's what's on the foot of the Hermione's Everyday sock, and they really fit well. I think 64 stitches is my magic number, but I still don't know as far as how the leg is. Now, on the Hermione's Everyday sock with that pattern, the leg feels wonderful, but as far as vanilla socks, I don't know. So I'm still in search of my perfect vanilla sock, and I think that I'm getting closer. I have a few pairs of hand knit socks, but none that I really love. So I'm a new sock knitter, and I've knit about at least 5. I have 3 myself, and my husband has 2. So that's 5, not counting these 2 now. I've knit 5 pair of socks. Well, I knit 1 and gave them away, so 6. So out of the 3 that I have now, none of them really, I don't really like how any of them fit. So hopefully I'm getting closer, and maybe after I find these two, then I'll find what fits. So that is that with my socks. So I'm aspiring to still finding the perfect for me sock numbers. And I may want to do some worsted weight socks. Susan B. Anderson put a real basic sock tutorial instructions on her blog about worsted weight socks. I really like the sport weight. I'm not sure if I want to go all the way up to worsted weight, but they sound like they would be interesting. And maybe it's just because it's Susan B. Anderson and she's real nice. But anyway, I do like the sport weight socks because I do wear my husband's. I have worn his Father's Day socks twice, and I really, really like them. And again, but those are kind of loose on me, and I have to look at the number of stitches I cast on. But they say that he said they fit him perfectly. They are kind of loose on me, but the other ones that I made for him, um, I think they fit pretty good. So anyway, I digress. I'm aspiring to finish the Mr. Green jeans, and I would like to start either a vest and one vest that I was gifted for my birthday, and I'll get more into that. Is the Lilac Trail vest, and it is a vest by Elizabeth Smith, and it's a very simple vest. And with school starting, my knitting time is going to decrease greatly, and it's just a simple vest with a nice lace detail on the back, and I'm thinking I would like to do something like that. I want to do a vest, I want to do a pullover sweater, I'm aspiring to do a cowl, and those are the things I kind of have in mind. So I had wanted to do another design by Jules Lunder on Ravelry, and so I kind of want to look at her designs. The one that I was really looking at is a jaquetta cardigan. It has a lot of ribbing in it, and I am just all ribbed out after doing this ribbing, and I think it was because I was using size 4 needles. It just this ribbing, it seems like a baby sweater and it wouldn't have a lot of ribbing. This and this has given me my fair share of ribbing. I am just begging for some stockinette stitch, and maybe that's why I'm enjoying the sock so much. So I feel a little ribbed out as far as sweaters, and Mr. Green jeans is a ribbing and cable pattern, but I just feel ribbed out. But those are the things that I want to do. I also want to do a hat. I want to do more hats for Halos of Hope. And I was also gifted a hat for my birthday that I was looking to make for myself out of sock weight black yarn. And it's kind of a slouchy beret. Let me see if I can get that up for you. I can't get that up for you now, but those are kind of what I'm aspiring to. My aspirations as I look ahead um, is more Halos of Hope knitting, a cowl because I got some beautiful yarn for my birthday that I would really like to make into a cowl. I really want to make myself a pullover sweater to go, just a nice pullover sweater to wear with a nice skirt, and the hat for myself. So that's what I'm aspiring to. Let's see. What is next? I, at work, was a little slow. You know, I work part-time retail, so I did my show notes on a receipt paper between customers. I wanted to talk to you about WOW. And for our WOW section, I just want to say thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who sent me private messages, who posted in the Ravelry group, who gave me happy birthday wishes. Thank you for the cards. Thank you for the gifts. Thank you for everything, just the shower of love that I got for my birthday. My knitting friends really made my birthday special. Not that my family didn't, but my knitting friends made it special too. So I appreciate everything very, very much. I did receive some yarn as gifts and some patterns, and as I come up to those and start using them, I will give credit to the one that gifted me. I feel kind of, I'm not comfortable with just sitting here and just showing you gift after gift after gift, and but I did send everyone private messages, and you have my heartfelt thank you and appreciation. It was not expected and required or anything, and I just want to say thank you. So just thank you. That is my wow. Another wow that I wanted to share is the day after my birthday, my mom and I had a day, girls' day out, where we went and got our hair done. And I had not been to the beauty parlor in, I don't know, 16, 17 years. I usually just do my hair myself. So we went and got our hair done, and we went and got manicures and pedicures. And I have never had a manicure. I have had my nails done, but I've never had a manicure where they do the hot wax and the massaging of your hands, and you know, it was really awesome. And the place where we went, when you get a manicure, they do massage your neck and your shoulders and your upper back. So all that came, and I think that was just wonderful. And the pedicure was, my mom could not believe I was 40 and never had a pedicure, but I never saw the need for it. I always thought, nobody sees my feet. I just, whatever my reasons were, it was awesome. If you've never treated yourself to a pedicure, it was just awesome. And that's all I can say. I loved it. And now I told my mom, this is where my extra spending money is going to go. Between yarn and pedicures, I don't know. It was just a very, very special treat. So that was really nice. On my iPad, I would like to talk. I can't remember who it was that posted a question in the Ravelry group asking me about Instagram. I am on Instagram quite a bit, and that's where you can find me mostly, Instagram or Ravelry. I do post a little bit to Twitter, but Instagram and Ravelry is where you can find me. And I think she was asking me if I could talk a little bit about Instagram, and I am his handmaid on Instagram. And she said that she is on Instagram, but she doesn't post a lot of pictures because it seemed like Instagram said they have the rights to the pictures. I don't understand all that. I know that there was a controversy that came up right before I started using Instagram, but my thoughts, personal thoughts on it is I mostly post my knitting on there. I don't do a lot of personal pictures on there. I have had a couple of pictures of my family or my children, but nothing really personal where you can kind of get a feel of where I live or my address or something that I feel can be cut and pasted and used in pornography or anything like that. So I'm careful about what I post. I don't really get really personal, but I enjoy everybody's post. And just for me, I think everything that we post, all of our personal business that we share on Ravelry, all our personal business we share on Twitter, all of that is kind of out there. And really, anybody can access it. It's cyberspace is not anonymous so much as I don't see where Instagram can be um, any more unsecure than maybe the things you talk about on Ravelry or something like that. So for me personally, I just use it carefully and mindfully like I would do Ravelry or Twitter or Facebook or anything else like that. So I hope that answers your question. And as far as what's on my iPad, I have heard a lot about Craftlit. And even though I love audiobooks, and I had heard a little bit about it's Craftlit. You can find it at craftlit.com, and it's hosted by Heather Ordover. And she usually takes you through a walk through her classic literature. And first, at the beginning of the podcast, she'll talk about her knitting and her projects and things like that. And then she'll get into the book and do some commentary, give you background. She'll set it up for you each chapter, and she'll maybe explain if it's with it being classic, it may have been written in the 1800s or sooner or later or whatever. She explains all that to you. I believe she's a literary professor or teacher, and she's a mother and a writer and a knitter and a designer. Um, and so for some reason, I just never got around to listening. Well, I don't know what made me finally decide to down. They were on my iPad and on my iPod, but I just never listened to them. So I started listening. And why I picked Dracula, I don't know. I think I picked Dracula because it's classic literature. And I know it was on one of the to read books. I was in honors English in high school, and I believe it was on one of the we must read books that I never got to. And I remember seeing it in the library, and that it was a thick book, and that it was full of stuff to learn from, not just the story, but the background and the writer and the things, the place and things like that. I'm not really into vampires. I've never seen the Twilight series yet. My husband and I were going to try to watch the first one, but we didn't get a chance to do that. I don't know a lot about Dracula. I don't know if I've ever really seen a Dracula movie, but I kind of have you hear about vampires and you kind of know the myth and the legend and all that. And I know it's just as falsehood, but Bram Stoker is just one of those authors that, like I said, he showed up in my honors English in high school and in college, but I never got to read his works, and so I just thought this is something I can knit and listen to and learn from. And so I've been enjoying it. I have been enjoying the story very much. I enjoy Heather's commentary, and I am on chapter 16, and now I'm thinking I want to listen to more classic literature, and I don't think I want to listen to it without her commentary. The one that I want to listen to next is Pride and Prejudice. I did read that book unabridged, or I listened to it unabridged, and it was something I got from the library, and I think it was um, the very popular audiobook people that does uh, all of the audio. I can't think of their name now, but they're all in the library and things like that. And so I listened to it and I loved it, and I have not listened to it again. I have not watched it. I have not read it. There's a lot of different takes or versions on it, and I did not want to ruin it by, you know how it is when you read a good book and then you read the abridged and you don't like it, or you hear it somewhere else, or I don't know. I just didn't want to ruin it. So I have not read it again, but Heather does it on through Craftlit, and I would like to go through it again with her and learn more about the background and just the author and the setting and everything like that. So I'm looking forward to starting that. And what I've done is, like, she did Dracula in December of 2011. So I am listening to it mostly through just the books, where she cuts out the craft part and she just has the literature talk. And just because I know a lot of things she was talking about, she talked about the big Fiber Fest in New York, Rhinebeck. She talked about Rhinebeck. She talked about stitches and different things like that. But with it being a couple of years ago, I kind of wanted to get to the book and not really hear the outdated craft stuff. So that was a long, that was a long introduction or a long talk about what's on my iPad, but that's what I've been listening to. So I've been listening to that, and I've been reading and or knitting, and I think, let's see, charity. As far as charity knitting, I've talked before, and I don't think I mentioned this because I didn't hear this podcast episode until after I recorded the last one. But Benjamin Levisay, who is the CEO of Books, he has an audio podcast called Fiber Hooligan, and he does some great interviews with different people from the fiber world. And as a matter of fact, this coming Monday, he's going to air an interview with Susan B. Anderson. So I'm looking forward to hearing that. On his last podcast, it may have been 2 podcasts ago, and I have it linked in the Ravelry group, and I'll try to link it in my show notes. He did an interview with I can't think of their names. I believe their last name is Smith. And their daughter was tragically killed. And they have started a foundation called Chelsea's Light Foundation. And I don't want to explain a lot about it because I feel like, that I may not explain it right or may take away from it. I would encourage you to go to chelsea'slightfoundation.com. Like them on Facebook, like them on Twitter, go to the website, read about Chelsea's story, and read what her parents are doing and about the foundation. Benjamin is having a knit along in this group. They have a shawl that it's a Stephen West design coupled together with Dream in Color Classies or Dream in Color yarn. I believe it's their smushy base. And if you buy the shawl kit, the proceeds go to help this Chelsea's Light Foundation, which it helps to put away sex offenders. And they're trying in different states that if you've been a sex offender convicted of a sex offense against a child, you get no second chance. But I can give you, or they can give you more details on the website. It's been a couple weeks now since I heard it, since like right after my last podcast, so it's not fresh in my memory. But I do have the links in the Ravelry group, and I'll try to put them in the show notes. So I wanted to share that with you. I hope to be able to purchase that shawl kit real soon and get started on that knit along. So I forgot about that in aspiration. And one last thing I wanted to talk about for my knitting circle is my husband finally twisted my arm and I taught him how to knit. He's been asking for socks, more socks, more socks. I only have 2 pair of socks and there's 7 days in a week. And I said, well, I'm trying to fill my sock basket. You're asking me for socks. You need to learn how to knit your own socks. So, and then he watches, he comes in and out while I'm watching podcasts, and he's seen Darren from Knitting in Circles, knitting, and he just really is like, I want to do that. Darren knits a lot of socks. And so I finally sat down and I got him some needles and Barocco vintage yarn, and I cast on for him because I feel like when you teach somebody to knit, you should cast on for them first, and that's just my opinion. Let them get the knit stitch and enjoy that, and before they get to the cast on. So I cast on for him, and he knit. Now, he didn't like the Barocco vintage. It kept splitting, and he kept taking it out and things like that. It was in a white, cream color colorway, and I have a confession to make. I made my February's Lady sweater out of the Barocco vintage back at the beginning when I first started the podcast. You can go back and see that. I did not like the yarn. I know a lot of people like Barocco vintage. This was their worsted weight. I just didn't like it. It was splitty. It didn't look right. It didn't wash up right. And I just threw the sweater away. I didn't think about taking it out and repurposing the yarn. I did not like, I didn't like the way the sweater came out. I just, I threw that sweater away. I cannot believe I threw a hand knit sweater away, but I did. I didn't like it. So anyway, I have a lot of the yarn left that I didn't use. So he didn't like using it either. He thought it was splitty and everything else. So he said, just give me some acrylic. Give me some acrylic. So I got out some unnamed acrylic that I had been given. And so he knit on that for a while. And he was like, oh, this is so much better. I let him knit on these needles I got at the Knitting Pipeline Retreat. They're child glue needles. And I love them because they remind me of the blue willow china. Simeon, quiet. And so he was saying, "Oh, these needles are too grabby," and he didn't like the yarn. So I cast on this yarn, this unnamed red acrylic, which I'm thinking maybe Windtuck or something like that, and I cast on with circular needles. I think they were Addies or Hayas or something. So he knit with that for a while and he thought, oh, that's so much better. Oh, and then after more knitting, he said, you were right. These are too slippery. And, he was getting a little confused with the circulars. And I said, well, I told you. I didn't think you need to start with circulars. So I put it back on these and he was fine with it. Then last night, I added in Cascade 220 Superwash that I had. And while he was at work, and when he came home and he started knitting with this, at first he was like, oh, I don't want Ohio State or Buckeye colors or whatever. And he started knitting with this and he says, I feel cheated. How come you didn't give me the nice yarn in the first place? I said, well, I didn't want you to waste my good yarn. I didn't know if you were going to play with it or whatever. So he really likes how I said, so now you see why I need good quality yarn. He just really liked how the Cascade knit. And so he really felt like he had a light bulb moment with the knitting. And so I was teaching him, I taught him this morning before I went to work how to purl. So he's just now starting to learn how to purl. And I see he made a mistake there. I don't know if you can see. But right here is where, I was teaching him to purl. And I think he did a few of the purl stitches himself. So yes, he's learning to knit. And I told him he feels like, well, I'm not knitting anything. And I said, well, you're knitting a swatch and you're going to have to always knit a swatch when you knit so you can count your stitches, get your gauge and all that. But he was like, I want to knit a dishcloth. He just feels like he's not doing anything, but he really is. I said, you just perfect that knit and purl so I can teach you magic loop and we'll get you started on some worsted weight socks. So I don't know how long this is going to last. I'm not he said he's going to get his own stash if he really gets into knitting. But yeah, that's what he's been doing. And he's determined, I think, that he wants to learn to knit, wants to learn to make his own socks, and that was that. So I think I've rambled on long enough. I haven't had dinner yet. I want to have dinner, and I feel like that I am not really clear with my thoughts and everything, but I wanted to put a podcast out. I wanted to show you the sweater and the hat. I wanted to publicly say, I've already sent private messages. Thank you. I think now I can take 40 like a woman. And I'm enjoying it so far. Someone asked me, now you don't even feel different, do you? I said, yes, I do. I feel like I'm 40. So, but thank you so much for joining me. School starts on September 2nd. Hopefully I can put a podcast out there actually it starts on the 3rd, I think. And so hopefully I can put a podcast out that first week of school. I will be back into working at the school and working the part-time job. So my knitting time is going to be less. I was thinking about cutting the podcast back, but then I thought, well, maybe now I can finally get it to 30 minutes or less like I wanted to, even if it's quick updates with not a lot of knitting. I wanted to go ahead and keep that every other week connection with you. So that is what I'm going to try to do. Don't forget about our August share. That's something I forgot to tell you for housekeeping. I think our August share question is to share your favorite birthday memory. And for our last share, the prize was a $10 Etsy gift certificate. But when I went to gift the prize, I did not realize that the least amount you can give for Etsy gift certificates is $25. So I contacted the prize winner and I told her she could choose an Etsy shop she wanted to shop from. Because I chose Etsy because I wanted something different than just gifting patterns, and I wanted to support indie small businesses, just small business, indie dyers or project bag makers and things like that. So I told her she could choose a shop, and I could buy a gift certificate for that shop. And I know the way you can do that is just kind of maybe PayPal, contact the owner and send the PayPal there, and then they can apply that money to what she wanted to purchase. Or she could choose $10 of patterns off of Ravelry, because I couldn't get the $10 Etsy gift certificate. So for our August share, you can win a prize of either $10 worth of patterns, downloads from Ravelry, or choose your favorite Etsy shop, and I will contact the owner and give you a $10 gift certificate there. Thank you so much for joining me, and take care.
There's no way I can pick it up from where I am. This is so frustrating. I feel I should just slam it down on the table and walk away madly. 'Cause my stitches don't count up and I missed a